Phantom Stranger number 0, written by Dan DiDio, art by Brent Anderson. This is a new comic. We're starting with issue 0, and we get introduced to the origin of the Phantom Stranger, where I'm just gonna lay this out to begin with. I know who it is. I'll say who it is at the end of the comic. They don't explicitly say it, but they may as well because it seems really easy to piece together. So, Mystery Man sitting in a jail cell, he says, like, yeah, here's the thing. I betrayed my best friend and I hung myself in penance for it. And I didn't die. And now I'm being held here as prisoner. And then this shining door opens up and it just says stand and enter. And inside we see Council of Wizards of all different denominations. And he's led before them because they're going to judge him, and he's apparently one of history's greatest sinners, and they're going to decide what his fate will be. And in front of him are 2 other sinners that are being judged as well. We know one of them is Pandora, who's been showing up consistently, and the other one is a Mystery Man, who I never covered the free comic book day issue, but I did read it, and it's Pandora, and this guy ends up being the Question. We don't actually know who he is before he's the Question, but he's the Question. So anyway, they're all told to kneel. The Question refuses to kneel, and he's forced down anyway. And the Phantom Stranger is the only one who's being judged currently, and he's like, please forgive me. I forgive me the same way that my friend would. And he's like, no, that's not going to happen. You've literally darkened the world with your greed and avarice. Therefore, you will be punished. And we take all of these silver coins that he has and string it up around his neck in a necklace. And then he's cast back into the real world, where now he has white hair and he has a robe next to him. And he's like, okay, what am I supposed to do? And a voice from the heavens says, like, put on the robe, your fate awaits. And so he puts on the robe, and apparently it was the same robe that belonged to his friend. And he puts it up, and everyone's like, oh, who are you? Why do you look that way? And he's like, I'm just a stranger. And he's like, oh, okay. I like mind wipes him or something so they don't care who he is. And the voice from above tells him, your penance is to walk the land until your debt for your sins is paid, and on that day you will serve the greater good. So he walks, and he helps out, like trying to help people through and through. And finally one day he gets a voice from above, now in like today, like modern day, and he's told, there is a man, seek him out, do what needs to be done, it is time to make amends. And he is in Gotham City. He makes his way to the GCPD, where inside there is a detective, Jim Corrigan, who's yelling at his superior, saying how his fiancée has been taken captive. He knows that it's the fault of some other detective who he has a beef with because Corrigan ended up shooting his brother, and he thinks this is payback for that. But the officer in charge is like, Corrigan, you have such an insane temper. Like, you already got 2 strikes against you. If you do any excessive force stuff on this, I'm going to have to kick you off the job. And, like, I don't trust you. I don't think you can do it. And he's like, please, it's my fiance. You have to let me in on this case. And he's like, sorry, no can do. So Jim takes his badge off, throws it on the desk, like, completely cliched style. He's like, take my badge. I don't need it. And he walks out. And Phantom Stranger's like, all right, well, I guess I'm here to help Jim. So out in the alley behind the building, he's investigating some sort of like hustler gambler guy who's in deep with a bunch of people for information. And as he's about to really lay into him, Phantom Stranger shows up and says, like, I might be able to help you. And Jim Corrigan's like, oh yeah, well, I've got an anger issue. So he grabs Phantom Stranger by the throat, puts a gun to his head, and be like, if you know something about where my fiance is, you better start talking. Phantom Stranger is like, I didn't do anything, but I do have information. And so he just phases through Jim Corrigan and shows him an image of a flash of the future that he apparently gets. And he's just there to guide Jim in the proper way. He doesn't actually do anything himself. So he shows the fiancé being bound and gagged in some sort of area. And he's like, I can show you where. Follow me, Jim. And they make their way to an old and abandoned warehouse that apparently Jim never would have thought to even investigate. And they walk inside, and the place is completely abandoned. There's literally nobody. And Jim's like, you set me up. This is all just to waste my time, isn't it? And he's like, I swear I thought you'd be here. And at that point, some lights come on, and apparently it was a trap. And it was a trap set by the cop who he suspected in the first place, but he's got other guys who end up shooting Jim Corrigan down, and he's now dead. And as Phantom Stranger is holding his body, he's like, I don't think this was supposed to happen. We see Jim Corrigan's spirit come out of his body as a spirit of vengeance, aka a specter, and he is now completely dead set on killing Phantom Stranger. And as soon as he's about to launch into his thing, he's like, "You will feel my wrath." He's just snapped out of existence by the voice from above saying, "No, but others will." Phantom Stranger's like, "What was that about?" And we see one of the silver coins drop from Phantom Stranger's necklace and just disappear. And Phantom Stranger's like, "Okay, all right. So it's not about me helping, like, people in need. You want me to help you set up your plans, whatever they may be." And this Jim Corrigan guy turning into a specter was part of those plans. Okay, all right, I get it now. I don't like it, but I get it. All right, I guess I'll keep doing that. And that ends the issue. Okay, spoilers. I'm going to only say this once, and in every future issue, I'm just going to say it outright if it comes up. He's Judas. He's Judas Iscariot. He killed Jesus, 30 gold or silver coins, and he hung himself. That's pretty straight up. I don't really feel like they were trying to hide it that much, but regardless, he's Judas. So yeah. In terms of setting this up as a intro, not only to the series, but the character as well, I think it did a good job. I think it said exactly like, okay, here's who Phantom Stranger is. Here is what his goal is as a character. And then a vague definition of his power set. I think I would have liked a little bit more of showing what he can actually do in order to help. Because clearly I feel like he's just unable to interfere with like the physical world is his thing. Like he's just kind of floating around, but he can still be seen and heard. At least that's what I'm picking up. Maybe I'm wrong, but it's something around that. Anyway, in terms of rating, I would say this is probably this is 7. It's good. It's a solidly written enough story. It's not great by any means. It's just it's a decent story to introduce the character that I genuinely don't really know much about. So see how we manage to evolve it over the course of the series, and of course how it interferes with the other 2 sinners that were judged in the beginning as we move into future events.